All right, welcome to Alabama Gristmill. Good to have you join us today. I'm your host, Mike Causey, with my co-host, Donna Causey. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Doing wonderful this day as fall comes upon us.
As fall comes upon us and beautiful days that we can go out and go to festivals all over the place.
Oh, look at that. You kind of lead me right into the intro. I see you're being slick.
I'm being slick today.
Well, the story we've got today is about the town of Elberta, and it's got a storied history. And also some interesting things currently going on down there. One being the sausage festival that's coming up here at the end of the month of October.
Have you ever been to a sausage festival?
Well, I've been to an Oktoberfest, and they have sausage, but not quite the 100% sausage festival. So. Right.
Yeah. I bet it's very, very good.
Well, a lot of people go to it, and it's so good they do it twice a year.
Yeah, they do. And I think they have a good turnout. I think back in October of 2014, they had about 20,000 people. Was it 20,000 or more than that?
20,000. I think it was 20,000
people. They said they had to come to it, but it's a neat little town.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, not crazy, but another interesting aspect of Alberta is they have dinosaurs even in the area have been spotted.
Oh yeah, in the woods. Large ones.
I guess more of a tribute to dinosaurs. It's some statues. This artist, I guess, sculptor Mark Cline.
Mark Cline has made them. And there's Bamahenge too. Looks like Stonehenge, and plus the dinosaurs. And I think you can visit them. They're almost life size, so they're huge. They're not tiny.
I don't know if it's an official, tourist attraction or a place to go, but it's definitely something you can check out on the web. But it's the Dinosaurs in the Woods in Elberta.
Yeah, and there's Roman columns and knights in the woods. It's all Mark Cline, the sculptor, made them, so that would be interesting. But the town of Elberta it's a small town, but it has a unique history too. Though that's what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, about this founding of it, where a lot of people immigrated in from to set up the town initially. So it's got like you said, a lot of history going on there. But before we get into that, I always want to mention the way we operate here is we just strictly buy donations, and we also have our patronage program, as well as books that we've put out for as history books and fiction and nonfiction. So historical fiction books you can check out. And all those, everything goes towards all those, goes to strictly to doing the site here. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, it helps a lot. And it's getting to be Christmas time, talk days coming up, so that might be some good Christmas gifts that you might want to buy with some of the books that we've got online. You can find them on Amazon.com.
You also, if you want to become a patron, you can just go to the website at AlabamaPioneers.com and click the Become a Patron button. And that helps us support. It's more like a subscription where you support us on a monthly basis. And, if you really enjoy what we're doing here, you can go support us that way. And if you're unable to do any of those, you can always just let your friends know about what we're doing here and have them check us out and the podcast and listen to it and all of that. So just wanted to put that out there, but we'll go ahead and get into the story now of the town of Elberta and how it got started and some of the cultural aspects of it.
Okay. This story about Elberta and its history comes to us from the Works Progress Administration author who wrote about the history in 1938. His name was Lawrence F. Evans of Fairhope, Alabama. Works Progress Administration has given us many, many stories that date back in time to the 1930s. That was a way of employing authors and artists during the Great Depression. But we have many, many stories about the culture and different parts of life that were going on that these wonderful authors wrote. Some of them went on to become famous authors that started out in the Works Progress Administration. But Lawrence F. Evans of Fairhope, Alabama, wrote this story, and that's where we get this information. Elberta actually has a pretty unique history. It was founded as a German colony. Elberta in itself is only 5 miles due east of Foley and 3 miles from the Foley-Alabama line on the east. The German area was initially bounded on the east by Perdido River and the Perdido Bay, and it all started around 1905 when it became the home of 2,000 people of German descent. It didn't have quite 2,000 in the early days, it was around more like 500, but eventually it rose to a population of around 2,000 people, and they were mostly German descent. The town started when Henry C. Bartling organized the Baldwin County Colonization Company, and he took an option on 50,000 acres from the owner, the Southern States Lumber Company, which was headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. So it came really from the north in investing in Alabama. Bartling advertised the land to people of German descent. He wanted to start a German colony in South Alabama. He sold acres for $15 to $30. The purpose was to establish a colony where the German population would get more opportunity. At that time, the states of Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Michigan, and some Atlantic seaboard states were becoming quite crowded. And the German immigrants that were coming over usually went up into that area, but they were kind of handicapped because the area was becoming so crowded, and many couldn't even speak English. So they were willing to answer the call and set out for Baldwin County, Alabama, which was quite a long way. Some of the people came even from Germany. They didn't go by way of the states of Pennsylvania, Illinois, Michigan, so forth. They came on down on their own to Baldwin County. They came by wagons and buggies and a recently completed railroad, which was nearby, to reach the unsettled area. And like I said, some even came by ship from Germany. When they arrived, all they saw was lots of forest and a banner hanging between two posts with the name Elberta. They met a land agent who was ready to sell them the land. He was very active at that time. So the colonists came in groups in order that they might share the hardships, those especially that went overland. By the end of the first year, Elberta was home to around 300 people. Most did not speak English, so that was a real handicap in trying to communicate with the people around them. Some of the first family names were Ulrich, Bergman, Harder, Newman, Linderhoff, Cockland, Cordell, Hanselman, Ollinger, Bellbringer, and Persk. Most of these families came from Pennsylvania. The first ones did. Thankfully, many of the early population consisted of families who were connected to the building industry as well as the farmers, because that was enable them to immediately start building some houses, hotels, and so forth for people to be living in. Land was sold in 40-acre lots, and the company, at their own expense, I guess, had from 10 to 20 acres of land clear for the purchaser. The new landowner moved into a tent and quickly began to construct something more permanent for his family. But he immediately set out planting some crops and was looking forward to them being harvested because they didn't have a whole lot of money with them. They had to get busy and provide all the essentials of life to themselves. Some were housed in a hastily constructed hotel while they built their homes and planted their first crops. The farmers faced a problem, though. The type farming was new and different from what they had been accustomed to. The soil was strange to the people who had farmed in Germany and Pennsylvania and in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And to those few who had come from industrial Chicago, it was stranger still because they were not used to planting. And according to their own statement, things were quite baffling. They stated that the first 2 years were the hardest, and few people had as much as $1,000 to get by on. So that's kind of low when you're off in a wooded area and just trying to survive, and not being able to speak English was a big handicap. Because those that did, I imagine, were able to provide for their family a little better because they could communicate with people around that were nearby. Most of the farmers planted a corn crop while others planted potatoes. But they ate the fruits and gathered hickory nuts that were abundant on the trees and anxiously awaited their crops to mature. Some, though, it just didn't work out, and they became discouraged and returned home. Some had a few crops that were successful, especially the essential ones like lettuce and so forth, and they tried doing some truck farming for the staples, but the market was a little bit too limited to bring cash results. Most people could manage to get that much themselves. So they didn't have a wide market like they would in the northern states or where they had come from. One time, even a mule in the family of 11 had an accident and he was killed. But the family was pretty happy because the dressed carcass was relished because it was real meat. One thing most of the settlers did was to take the first steps to becoming U.S. citizens. They immediately set about doing that. They crossed the bay to Mobile with their papers, set out the path to become citizens, and adopt the United States as their new home. They were ready to give up Germany. The first generation, of course, was born in Germany, but they sent their young men to fight for the U.S. during World War I anyway, and that was which had just started. According to their own statements, they felt that in America they were allowed absolute freedom, and they could meet without being questioned or under suspicion, and that was not the situation in Germany. They quickly gave up customs, habits, and mannerisms from their own mother country. They worked hard. Entire families spent daylight hours in the fields, men, women, and children, plowing, sowing, and reaping. The women didn't just stay inside. They worked alongside with their husbands. Nights were passed in completing the construction of their homes, barns, outhouses, yards, fences, and even the roads to their farms, so they were an industrious people. The German women, like I said, worked alongside the men. Most worked 18 hours a day. A community hall was built where Sunday planning meetings for their city and farming discussions were held, and they exchanged ideas about how to farm in this new soil. And that's how they were able to eventually be successful, because they communicated with each other and shared tips that they might have. The hall was also used for the children's schooling and religious worship. It was shared among the different religions. In the early days, they were accused by some natives of Baldwin County as being kind of clannish, but that was mainly because they didn't speak English. They couldn't really get along well in the culture of the Southerners at that time. And they were very unfamiliar with the Southern customs, so they just kind of hung together and relied on each other. But together with this close cooperation, they built brick stores, churches, garages, schoolhouses, and other businesses. The increase of livestock was slow at first. Vegetables grew abundantly and saved the spirit of the colonists, though. As soon as one crop was harvested, the soil was immediately prepared for another planting, so they experimented and successfully grew 2 or 3 crops on the same plot of ground the first 2 years. They were rapidly taking advantage of the good soil. The houses were built sturdily. They were like homes built in the Midwest rather than the Southern type, because that's how they knew to build. A vast majority of the farmhouses were brick. They were built for permanence. They didn't plan on leaving. They were built for comfort and convenience. Many had built basements, which was necessary in the northern states because they had those big furnaces to keep their houses warm. But they were not needed in the warm climate in Baldwin County, so they started using them for workshops where the men would tinker around in, and some of the women even just set up canning factories in the basements, and they used it also for extra storage, of course. Canning didn't stop with just fruits and vegetables. They canned everything in sight, from nuts and rabbits and squirrels and other meat. They found a way to can it. They missed pickled herring, which was a popular dish in Germany, and salt mackerel from their old country, and those of the North Atlantic seaboard. But the women taught themselves how to pickle and can mullet, a native fish plentiful in the salt waters adjoining Elberta, so they figured out a solution for their herring. Even before the completed rural electrification association lines were installed, most of the people in Alberta had their own light and power plants. They used the motor to saw wood, which was necessary for home consumption, and many homes were equipped with plumbing and sanitation when they were built. Working together, The community organized and supported county schools and churches. The cemetery was even a community affair. They set up separate divisions that were established in the cemetery for the burial of followers of each belief. To support the town's volunteer fire department, the Elberta German Sausage Festival was started in the mid-1970s, and this event is held the last weekend of March and the last weekend of October and features polka music, Elberta German sausage, and 250 arts and craft vendors. In 2014, the October Festival saw an estimated 40,000 visitors, so it's a popular event in Baldwin County. The town is also the home of the Baldwin County Heritage Museum. The museum is located on U.S. Highway 98 east of the town, and it features exhibits devoted to the development of Baldwin County. And the museum includes a large amount of farm equipment, early farm equipment, and exhibits of life in farm homes. The old St. Mark's Lutheran Church building was moved to the grounds of the Heritage Museum, and it has been restored. So you can see a lot of history there.
Well, that was pretty amazing history of how it started with the German people moving in and getting it all set up in the early days. And I know you mentioned, I think in the past we've even talked about the Swedes coming in at some point.
Oh, yes, they came in to Baldwin County, too. There's a lot of different immigrants from other countries are settled in southern Alabama. They immigrated in around the 20th century and set up residence there and have really created a nice community in the different areas.
They definitely have an international kind of cultural feel, from the German, Swedish, even to the French, if you go more into the Mobile area.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's definitely an international part of the state of Alabama.
It's a good place to visit, though. Maybe you can make it down there for that sausage festival at the end of the month.
And I did want to give more information on the sausage festival. It's coming up on October 26th of this year. I guess it's always the last weekend or last Saturday of October. In addition to, they have one in what is it, March, I believe, or
March?
May? March, yes, March. So it's the last Saturday of both March and October. So they have that. So, but the October one's coming up here, and it's like we said, a great festival. Has, you said 20,000 people at some point. They have those coming in to visit.
Right. Well, no, I looked it up since then, and it's 40,000 visitors they had.
Wow.
Which we didn't get quite enough. That was back in 2014.
Well, you can come down there and you can get your fill of German sausage and sauerkraut and of course all the usual entertainment you get at festivals from a bunch of arts and crafts booths around 200, I believe they're saying, and all the different German foods, flavors, and everything, and entertainment. So you definitely can go down there. It supports the volunteer fire department, so it's also you're doing a good thing there.
But
that is coming up. And if you need more information on that, it's you can go to the elbertafire.com and you can get the information about the upcoming festival and see about going down there and checking it out. So
you check out the dinosaurs while you're there too. They're not too far away. So
yeah, the kids will love that for sure. Kids always like the dinosaurs.
Oh, they do.
Well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. And to catch us next time, please share with your friends, family, and also give us a review if you can on the website, on the iTunes or any of your podcast players. We really appreciate that. And with that, we'll go ahead and let Red Foley play us out with a little Alabama Jubilee.
Bye-bye.
Joe dancing round on his toes, throws away his crutch and hollers, hey, let her go, oh honey.